battered, bound, and abandoned to face a cruel, drawn-out death strung up from a tree branch. Deep within a pitch-black forest, the ropes binding Emily Carter's wrists had shredded her skin. Stretching her arms wide across a massive limb, a cord wrapped tight around her throat left her with an impossible choice. Use what remained of her fading strength to hold herself up, or suffocate. Her feet hung uselessly in the air, toes reaching desperately for ground that wasn't there. Crimson stains covered her legs, blending with grime and perspiration. Her knee had ballooned into a grotesque purple mass, marking her flesh like a permanent scar of agony. Every breath rattled through her lungs, shallow, fractured. Darkness surrounded her, broken only by her whimpering and the groan of rope straining with each tiny shift of her weight. Yet Emily wasn't suffering in solitude. Lurking in the darkness, propped lazily against a nearby trunk, was Jack Malone. A man who'd once earned respect as a rancher, now reduced to pure evil, hiding behind a human face. His gaze sparkled with sick satisfaction. Like some wild beast savoring the final moments of wounded prey, Jack raised a silver flask and drank deeply. A twisted smile crossed his lips as he watched Emily struggle, her frame convulsing. "Here's the thing, Emily," he murmured, his tone eerily composed and bone-chilling. "This isn't about ending you fast. It's about witnessing you shatter piece by piece until nothing remains of who you were." His boots crackled over dried foliage as he moved in. His finger traced the cord, choking her neck. The touch made her recoil, her breathing becoming more ragged. Jack released a low, menacing laugh, more vicious than any scream could be. "This particular rope, my personal favorite, gets tighter each time your strength fades. So go ahead, keep resisting. I'm enjoying every second of your struggle until you've got nothing left to give." Emily's thoughts spiraled through waves of terror and suffering. Her arms felt like they were burning alive, every fiber crying out to surrender. Her windpipe screamed for oxygen. Tears carved paths down her filthy cheeks. But Jack simply settled back, drinking in every tremor, every desperate gasp, every shattered whisper for mercy. The hours crawled by. The moon drifted overhead while Emily held on to existence with whatever remnants of will she could muster. Her form swayed gently, like some tragic marionette on exhibition. Jack's eyes never wandered. He perched on a fallen log, running a blade along a whetstone, humming tunelessly. His attention remained fixed on her torment. Sometimes he chuckled quietly, tilting his head as though witnessing entertainment crafted solely for him. Other moments, he talked to himself. Thought she could abandon me. Figured she'd just walk out, but nobody gets to leave Jack Malone behind. Emily's parched lips formed soundless pleas for compassion she knew would never arrive. Jack stood once more, his silhouette consuming her fragile shape. He cupped her chin, forcing her gaze upward to meet his fingers like ice against her skin. "You're stunning this way," he said, venom dripping from every word. "Delicate, powerless, utterly mine." Emily's pulse hammered with dread, yet somewhere buried deep within her, a tiny ember of resistance continued to glow. She tried to cry out, but her vocal cords failed her. Still, Jack caught that faint gleam in her eyes, the stubborn spark refusing to be extinguished. And it only intensified his twisted fixation. "Don't quit on me just yet," he said, stepping away, his grin expanding. "I need to witness the precise instant you finally give in. That's when it gets truly satisfying." Hey. The darkness gave way to morning light. Her body quaked beyond control. Each breath came sharper than before. The ropes dug further into her flesh, leaving wounds that would become permanent reminders. She'd made it through the night, but barely had anything left in her. One question lingered. Heavy as storm clouds, would help arrive before Jack's sadistic entertainment reached its horrifying conclusion. Emily's limbs screamed in agony. Her entire being trembled, like it was seconds from collapse. She accepted this as her final moment. Then she detected it. Footsteps crushing dead leaves underfoot, measured, consistent pacing, growing nearer through the woodland. For an instant, her heart seemed to stop beating. Was Jack coming back to complete his vile entertainment? Or had someone actually ventured into this god-forsaken forest at daybreak? From the gloom emerged William Dawson. Locals knew him simply as Will, pushing 50, powerfully built, skin toughened by decades in the elements. Moving with the steady confidence of someone who'd witnessed more than his share of darkness. Will wasn't perfect, but he possessed an unshakable sense of duty that pushed him to act when everyone else looked away. The instant his gaze found Emily suspended from that branch, he went rigid. The sight struck him like a physical blow. This transcended simple brutality. This was pure malevolence. He let his rifle drop and lunged forward. "Hang in there, kid," he grunted, sawing at the bindings with his hunting blade. Emily gulped air as the pressure released from her throat, her form folding into his embrace. Her lungs filled with blessed oxygen without the accompanying torture. Will steadied her weight. "Take it slow. You're protected now. I've got you covered." His tone was gravelly, but warmth flickered through it, the kind that makes you trust without question. But peace never endures long in these parts. A gunshot cracked through the dawn air. Wood exploded from the trunk mere inches from Will's skull. Jack Malone had reappeared, weapon drawn, rage blazing in his stare. "Release her, Dawson," Jack snarled from the tree line. "She's my property." Will didn't bother with conversation. He positioned Emily behind him, yanked his revolver free, and returned fire. His bullet kicked up earth near Jack's feet, sending him diving for shelter. "Move," Will hissed Emily, pulling her toward his tethered mount. She could barely support her own weight, yet the desperation in his command propelled her onward. Another shot exploded. Will groaned as lead scraped across his ribs, ripping through cloth and flesh. Searing pain flared, but he pressed forward. He hoisted Emily into the saddle and swung up behind her. The animal reared before charging down the forest path. As more bullets whistled past them, branches lashed their clothes. Dawn air thick with gun smoke and kicked up dust. Emily clutched Will tightly, tears blending with sweat, her chest pounding with equal parts terror and blessed relief. Behind them, Jack's voice carried through the timber a primal roar of fury, promising this wasn't finished. Not until she belonged to him again. But Emily understood something Jack didn't. She'd broken free once, and this time she'd choose death over returning to his clutches. What would unfold when? Jack's obsession pushed him to pursue them across the lawless frontier. The mount thundered along the trail, hooves drumming like a storm through the vacant woods. Will gripped the leather reins with one fist, his other palm pressed against his seeping wound. Every jolt sent lightning through his torso, yet he refused to slow. Stopping meant dying. Emily clung to him, face buried against his chest. Behind them, Jack's enraged howls resonated through the forest. Gunfire popped in the distance, but the shots fell short of their mark. Will spoke close to her ear. "Stay with me, kid. Just need to create some distance from that monster." Branches whipped their garments. The horse's breath came in hot clouds, steam rising into the crisp morning atmosphere. Eventually, the forest sounds faded. Will eased back on the reins, slowing their pace. The path opened into a meadow. He dismounted first, wincing as his boots met dirt. Crimson soaked his shirt's side. Still, he managed a lopsided smile. "Bullet barely grazed me. I'll survive." Emily climbed down, legs wobbling as she found solid ground. She stared at him with wide, moisture-filled eyes.
Ow.
Scowled, lowering himself onto a downed tree. "That's nonsense. I couldn't abandon you strung up like that. No decent man could." Her voice dropped, weighted with guilt. "You don't know the full story. Jack Malone wasn't some random stranger. He was mine once. I cared for him or believed I did." Will's expression hardened. He leaned in, attentive. "Initially, he seemed kind," she continued. "Then I recognized the reality. His twisted pleasures, the way he'd laugh at my suffering. He thrived on pain. When I escaped, I thought I'd found freedom. Instead, he tracked me down. Now he wants to complete what he began." Will spat into the earth, fury flickering across his weathered features. "So that's his motivation. He doesn't view you as human, just something he possesses. He shook his head. Men like him don't understand love. They only know destruction. Emily looked away, tears sliding down her face. I'd welcome death before ever returning. Will placed a firm hand on her shoulder. Then we'll guarantee you never have to. Not while I'm still breathing. For a brief moment, silence filled the woods. The two sat together, wounded and exhausted, yet united by their shared will to survive. They both recognized this wasn't over. Jack Malone remained out there, still hunting. And friend, if you're curious how this confrontation unfolds, stay with us. Hit that subscribe button so you catch the next chapter. Because when darkness descends on the ranch, Jack Malone will come back. Kanda the devil himself will be standing at their doorstep. Because Jack isn't through yet, and he's nearer than you realize. Nightfall blanketed the Dawson Ranch heavily. The lamps glowed dimly, and wind shook the weathered shutters. Emily positioned herself beside the table, fingers shaking as she wound fabric strips around Will's injury. He attempted to appear strong, flashing that characteristic half-grin. Don't worry yourself, girl. I've endured worse from brawls in Abilene. But she noticed the perspiration beading his forehead, how his frame trembled with pain. Will Dawson was seriously injured, and they both recognized it. Then it came a subtle crunch of stones outside. Calculated, purposeful footfalls crossing the yard. Emily went still. Will reached for his revolver, his grip unsteady. Keep silent, he breathed. The door groaned open, and there stood Jack Malone, features partially obscured by shadows, a grin spreading across his face like he commanded the entire space.
Oh.
Well, Jack spoke smoothly, his voice like poisoned honey. Knew I'd locate you here. You honestly believed you could take her from me, Dawson? Will lifted his revolver, but his wounded arm wavered. Jack fired instantly. The round hammered into Will's shoulder, throwing him backward against the wall. Emily shrieked as he collapsed. Blood spreading rapidly. Jack advanced slowly, relishing each step, his pistol held steady. Don't panic, Emily. I'm not finishing him quickly. Men like this deserve prolonged suffering, just like what you experienced. Emily's pulse thundered in her ears. She glanced at Will, barely holding consciousness, fighting to raise his weapon. Then she looked at Jack, the man she'd once thought she loved. Now a demon wearing human form, something within her broke. Her fear evaporated, replaced by a rage more intense than anything she'd known. She seized the nearest object, a heavy iron lantern, from the table, with a scream torn from the core of her being. Emily swung with everything she had. The lantern crashed into Jack's skull with a nauseating crack. His grin vanished immediately, his eyes widening with shock as he staggered backward. Emily didn't hesitate. Years of anguish, endless nights of dread, every bruise, every mark, every instant of degradation powered her strikes. She hit him repeatedly until Jack Malone lay motionless on the floor, crimson pooling around him. Her chest rose and fell violently, tears and sweat dripping from her face. For the first time in years, she experienced freedom. Will's faint voice pierced the stillness. Emily. It's finished, but was it truly finished? Emily stood above Jack Malone's body, breathing heavily, hands still trembling from the blows she'd delivered. The ranch's quiet felt oppressive, interrupted only by the soft flickering of lamplight. For the first time, she felt his suffocating presence lift away. The man who'd terrorized her, who'd stolen her liberty, who'd attempted to demolish her spirit, was Ganand. She had been the one to stop him. She released the iron lantern, her fingers aching, and rushed to Will's side. He appeared pale, bleeding, but breathing. His eyes opened as she knelt down, and a weary smile touched his lips. You rescued me, Emily, he whispered. No, she replied, tears flowing down her cheeks. We rescued each other. Dawn's first rays filtered through the gaps in the aging ranch house. Emily helped Will to his feet. Together, they walked outside into the vast, open territory, stretching endlessly before them. The atmosphere felt fresh, the horizon painted amber by the climbing sun. It marked a new beginning, not just for them, but for what they'd chosen to embrace, that regardless of how shattered someone becomes, Regardless of how much suffering they carry, there's always an opportunity to resist, to rise again. To reclaim existence from darkness's grip, Emily gazed across the grassland, her hand resting softly on Will's arm. She'd been a victim. Now she'd become something greater, a survivor. And with Will beside her, she knew she'd never confront the world in isolation again. Perhaps that's the truth we're supposed to understand. That even in the most brutal places, even when evil appears invincible, the human spirit can triumph. But what about you? If you'd been in Emily's position, would you have discovered the strength to resist, or would you have surrendered to despair? This tale shows us that bravery doesn't arrive easily, and it doesn't come painlessly. It emerges in our darkest moments when surrender seems simpler, yet somehow we refuse to quit. So if this journey touched you, if you experienced Emily's battle and Will's bravery resonating deep within you, show this story some love right now and subscribe so you don't miss our next tale from the Wild West where survival, justice, and passion collide beneath the scorching sun. Because out here on the frontier, every conclusion is simply the beginning of something new.